Well, good morning, everybody. How you doing? You doing good? Yeah, it's good to see you, and the weather's great. And, I start a new series called The Eye of the Heart, or The Eye and the Heart, or whatever it is. For the next few weeks, I'll be speaking about our hearts, and I'll be speaking about our eyes. Now, in the Scriptures, the heart is talked about a lot. In fact, it's over 900 times that the Scripture talks about the heart. And only on a few occasions, when it speaks of the heart, is it actually referring to the cardiac muscle. When the Scriptures talk about the heart, it is speaking about the soul, or the very essence of who you and I are. It's the most centered place. It's who we are. Now, when the Scriptures speak about the eyes, the Scriptures show often that you might have sight, but you still may not perceive. So it's one thing to see out. You think to allow perception to come in, and they are different. It's a whole other thing that our life can be like a window. And so here I am in something place, or we'll just say in me, and I look out at life. And many times I think the way I see is real, yet there is a pain, P-A-P-A-N-E, but certainly maybe a P-A-I-N as well, that creates a filter. So I want to talk about this over the next few weeks, and specifically what I want to talk about is the eye and heart, and when it comes to faith. When you drove in here this morning, you passed a big monument sign that said Hope Park Church, and it kind of gave you our mantra, our meaning, our purpose, or what we're about. And it said, what we're about is to grow faith, give hope, spread love. So what does it mean to grow faith? What is it that we are to grow? What is that exactly? And when it is grown and when it is mature, from a seedling to a big redwood, what is the fruit of that? And so that's what we'll talk about. There's been times over my 35 years plus of faith that I've been very confused in my faith and what it's about. I'm sorry to admit to you, but this is true about me, and that being completely vulnerable, there is times that my faith has only been in my head and not in my heart. And when it has been shoved and packed, decongested, so to speak, in my head, it has been a very frustrating place. There is times I just go, Christianity isn't working. So I want to talk about that and what that means. So what is faith? So at the heart of Christianity, if my heart represents the very center of me, what is the heart of Christianity? Well, the heart of Christianity is faith. In fact, the New Testament speaks about faith in every single book, all but two. Jesus talked about faith all the time. In fact, if you want to read and weave through the four biographies of Jesus, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and see whenever Jesus encounters somebody, what does faith mean and what does it play? For too many of us, our faith is stuck in our head. And we actually think that's a good thing. We actually think that's a supposed to thing. That's what God set up our faith to be up here. Something to be understood. Something to gnosis. Something to learn about and have knowledge of. But is that really faith? So let's talk about that. And to do that, I'm going to just dive right into a story. And this is just one. I could show you Jesus' encounters with people where their faith is on the verge or on the edge. It's developing or it's virgin-esque. I could show you a ton of stories. So this is just one that's illustrative of what I think Jesus is trying to share. And it's when Jesus heals the blind man. It's recorded in 3 of the Gospels. In 2 of the Gospels, the blind man is named. His name is Bartimaeus, but in the one I'm sharing you, he's not named, but it is the same story. And so let's work through this story, and let me try to share two things about faith. And today, just so you know, today is purely introductory. Your application today is to ponder this here and certainly here. So let's take a look at this story. As Jesus approached Jericho, a blind beggar was sitting beside the road. When he heard the noise of the crowd going past, he asked, "What's happening?" I love this guy already. They told him that Jesus the Nazarene was going by. So obviously this guy has some sense of knowledge, some sense of awareness of who Jesus is. And look what happens. So he began shouting, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." I love this. "Be quiet." The people in front yelled at him. But what did he do? He only shouted louder. I love this. "Son of David, have mercy on me." Now pause right there. We read this story and we could quickly miss that we are in this story, or I realize at first glance we root for this guy, but sometimes we're the guys going, "Hey man, pipe down." What I love about this guy is when this guy says, "Jesus, have mercy on me," that word mercy, what that means is, I'll give you kind of the long explanation. Basically, when this guy is saying, "Have mercy on me," this is a guy that says, "Listen, there is nothing in me that I can rely upon anymore. Anything I need in my life is going to come outside of me." But somebody who says, "Have mercy on me," this is somebody who is very in touch with their needs. And many times when we get around a person who is very in touch with their needs, we go, "Psst, pipe down." Or we call them needy. Or we view them as weak. "Hey, I need something and I don't have it." Because everything in us, this is how I'll speak of me, and maybe it's illustrative of you. A lot of my life, I have viewed any of my needs as that's a problem. Needs aren't a good thing. Needs are a problem upon which I need to solve. And when I have needs that I can't solve, the last thing is I want you to know about me is that I'm needy, because I view that as wrong. And so what can happen is we can hold to this Christian faith, this belief about Jesus. We believe in him, but we certainly don't want to need him. That's not cool. Or if I have a problem, we can even believe in God and have our religion and go, "I'll take care of my problems myself." But this guy gets it. He goes, "Jesus, I have a need, a serious need that I can't, it needs your mercy." And when they tell him to be quiet, he shouts for God even louder. Now let's look at the next slide here. When Jesus heard him, he stopped and ordered that the man be brought to him. So this is how Jesus responds to needs. When people come up to Jesus and go, if Jesus is walking down the lane and someone goes, "Hey, Jesus, I need you," he stops. He goes, "You do? Come. Come." So they bring him over to him, and I love this question that Jesus asks him. Jesus looks at him and says the same thing he is saying to you and me. "What is it you want me to do for you?" Also allowing the man to be brought into himself to understand his need and to even project his need. The guy doesn't go, "Gosh, I have no clue," or "I just wanted to profess I believed in you." Jesus looks at him and says, "You've been asking for mercy. What is it you want from me?" And then look what he says. In this guy's case, he's very much in touch. He goes, "It's easy. I want to see. I want to see." And Jesus goes, "All right. Boom, receive your sight." But look what he says to him. "Your faith has healed you." Let's look at that word faith. The Greek word there, it's not a pleasant sounding English word, so hang with it. The Greek noun here is the word pistis. Yeah, I get it, not great. Especially in church. I get it. But the verb is pistis or pisteo, which I'll explain in a minute, because this is very important. But what I can tell you at this point, it doesn't mean your faith is in your head. He's not saying what you believe, the truth you believe has healed you. That is not what he's saying. The Christian tenets you hold to, that's what allowed you to see today. That's not what he said. So look what happens. Instantly, the man could see. And what happened? What is his response? He followed Jesus. What this means is Christianity is not a way of belief. Christianity is a way of life. It's a way of the heart. It's not a system we believe. It's a way of life. He now can see, and what does he do? Join a church and keep all the commands? No, he follows Jesus. He follows the way of life. In fact, in the book of Acts, before they were ever using the term Christians, that came later. Do you know what Christians were called in the early days? They were called the way. Christianity has always been about a way of life. And this guy gets it. So here are the two things I want you to ponder in your eyes, your perception, your head, your heart this morning. Here's the first one. I want to talk about faith in your head and faith as a belief. And what I want to say is, I often say, faith is not a belief. It is not. Not pisteo, not pistis. No, not at all. Not the faith that healed this guy. So, when we hold faith as a belief, which many of us have had, this is giving a mental assent to something. This is our mind going, yeah. And faith isn't that way. This is, I believe something is true. In fact, for me, the word true, I'm using me as general, when I believe this, that means factual. And many times when you see the debate in our culture, when people are having rigorous, really unpleasant and distasteful debates about faith, this is many times it's on the level of. It's on the level of head, and what people are debating is their sense of the facts. I think this is true. No, I think this is true. No, I think this is true. And if you don't think what I'm true, what you think is true is not true. And what this does is congested, this is a great word, it shoves faith, it keeps it up in the sinuses, in the cranium, and it keeps it in the head. And that's not what Jesus ever intended. And certainly the blind beggar that day, he didn't know all that. And so when faith becomes like this, it then forces us into something. I either have to completely accept it, and if I can't completely accept it, then I have to reject it. And this is what we see going on in our culture. And this is not what Jesus set up at all. If you look after story, it's people going, Jesus, I need you. Jesus, my little girl died. Jesus, I don't know what my future is about. Jesus, I can't see. Jesus, I'm under oppression. And Jesus doesn't turn to him and go, well, let's see if you have the right amount of it, and let's just see if you know all of it. It's people at the depths of their need saying, Jesus, have mercy on me. You know, depending on who you read, and, you know, candidly, I read a lot. And some scholars think that this whole idea of faith crammed in your head, faith is belief, some think it started around 400 years ago. And I think there's good argument. When you look at the Protestant Reformation in reaction to the Catholic corruption, when you look at Enlightenment, science coming online, and prepositional or propositional belief, things that need to be verified, right? Makes sense. But what some biblical scholars said, that the idea of faith as a belief is relatively modern. Even if you go, it's 400 years old. If Christian faith is 2,000 years old, the idea of faith simply being belief, that's pretty modern. And what some biblical scholars think is before that, faith was here. It was in the heart. This is why so many of us at times, I'll just set it here. This is why so many of us at times feel the pressure to believe either the right amount or believe correctly, and we worry about doubt and unbelief. But here is the pressure you have set up for yourself. If you believe faith is believing the right amount, if you believe faith always has to be you believe the right thing, then you have set yourself up for, if you start to doubt that, or you don't have enough of it, wow. I've been at this 25 years in the pastorate, and I've pastored many people a frustrating way. Some where they finally do this to the faith because they can't take that anymore. And is this really what Jesus set up? When Jesus is walking by this guy, think about the heart, at least the heart you hope Jesus has. Jesus, this podium is this guy. This guy is saying, somebody have mercy on me. And Jesus is walking by him, and he hears, hey, Jesus, shh, be quiet. Hey, Jesus, have mercy on me. Do you think Jesus is going like this? I wonder if this guy has enough faith. I'm not stopping until he does. I wonder if this guy believes the right thing, because I'm not stopping until he does. And when Jesus does, do you think it's going, you finally have enough? And you finally believe the right thing. Sure, what is it you want? I don't think any of us, and look at that story, go, that is what I believe about God. We believe, isn't this what we believe about God? When somebody cries out and says, Jesus, I need you. God, I need you. Have mercy on me. He goes, what is it you need? So if faith is not in the head, and if it's not something I believe, oh no, what is it? This is this word pistis and pisteo, and it's this. Faith is in the heart, meaning what? Faith is not an amount of something. Faith is not having to get the amount right, per se. Faith in the heart is reliance and trust. So I use my podium all the time as kind of an illustration of God. So if this podium represents God, faith is this. It is a reliance upon. It is a leaning on. It is taking myself and putting my entire self in this. And see, I can do this even when I doubt. There's a lot of times I just go, well, I'm just going to rely and trust upon him. I have a whole bunch of doubts. I have a whole bunch of fear. I don't know if I even believe in the whole thing yet. But I can still put my trust in. Does this make sense? But see, if it's not that, if faith is, I got to believe the right thing and I got to have enough of it for it to work like magic. Well, then now doubt is, oh no. Fear and unbelief is, oh no. This word faith that Jesus uses in this story And all of the other stories where he goes, your faith has healed you. Your faith has made you well. When Jesus says, believe on me, the same word, pisteo. This word pistis, pisteo, what it means is it doesn't mean belief with an F. It means believing into. It means trust. It means reliance. It means you believe into something. And so in fact, I'm going to shoot straight with you. It would be a whole lot easier if you could just say, David, just tell me belief is in my head. Tell me the 10 things I need to believe in my head. And if some of those facts sound harebrained, okay, 2, 4, 6, and 8, they sound doable. I get that. But all these other ones, 1, 3, 5, and 7, they sound nuts. I'll just apply well, sometimes faith is not understanding. And you just have to believe it anyway. So I have to talk myself into that when I'm really going, what? Well, that's not the pressure I have to bear. That's God's burden. It's me saying, God, I need you. And him turning to me and saying, what is it you need? I'm blind. I can't see. I'm going through a divorce. My finances are upside down. I haven't spoken to my kids in over a year. My parents are elderly and they're sick. My husband, my wife, my lover just walked out on me. I'm experiencing doubt and unbelief and discouragement. And then to say, well, have mercy on me. Meaning, it's like, I don't know how I'm going to solve anything. Well, Jesus said, if you have faith of a mustard seed, if you have pisteo, if you have any reliance, trust, how much? Oh, I bet you need a whole bunch of it, right, to make magic happen in my life. No, just a little mustard seed be good. Why don't we just start with a little mustard seed? That's good. Because your face is towards me. Why don't we start there? And so when Jesus turns to his followers and says that, your faith has made you well. Your faith has healed you. Do you want to hear something about the blind guy that day? It turns out he's the only guy that could see. Remember I said sight is not seeing something, sight is perception? When this guy, in his need of mercy, is crying out for, hey, God, stop. He is the only one who can see. His own apostles, his own followers, the people that actually go, I'm leaving the fishing business and I'm going to follow this guy. Why? Because I believe this stuff. They're going, hey, buddy, here's $20. Go play in traffic. They're saying, guys, shut down. Be quiet. But he keeps going, I see God walking by me. And I need him. And so when Jesus turns to him and says, how can I help you? The guy says, well, I want to see. And Jesus already knows you already can. Does this make sense? A couple of years ago, a pastor friend, we were on staff together at Willow Creek and known him a long time. I called him up. He's now pastoring in Southern California, so I call him up. I said, hey, man, how you doing? He goes, not so good. I go, well, what's up? So he tells me about his son, and his son, I've known him since he was a little baby. And he goes, he's not doing so well. What do you mean he's not doing so well? He's in a hospital now, a mental hospital. And he goes, David, my 12-year-old son wants to kill himself. So we start to talk about this. Now, this is a guy, him and I, we've been into the Jesus thing since we were in college. We have long resumes of this. So we start talking about God and faith and something outside of our control. And I remember he said something like this, listen, the healing for my son and the deliverance for my son is not going to come from anything I believe. It's going to come from the mercy of God that I am desperately holding on to. every day. And I kept my mouth shut on the other side and just said, I bet. I can't imagine, Todd. And so right now you're going through some stuff, or if you're not going through some stuff, you're going to be. And what faith is faith is not stuck in your head. Now, as Christians, there are things we believe. But that's not what makes faith alive and faith real. The way of Christianity is the way of Jesus, and it is the way of trusting and relying on him, even if only but a mustard seed. And then he works. Kierkegaard says it this way. Well, I'll back up. I grew up on the water, and so I have no fear of water at all. We had a swimming pool growing up. I grew up where the lower Niagara River dumps into the mighty Lake Ontario. There is just water everywhere, and I was in it, so water is a regular thing. Completely opposite for my wife, Liz. She grew up in the hill country of Texas, near there. And so when we were married and started having kids, I love this about her. She said, I want to make sure our kids are not afraid of water. I want to make sure they swim. So from the time my kids were like a zygote, not too long after, they were in water, and we were always at the side of the pool. It's in Colorado in the winter with a ton of snow, watching our kids, swim. And I remember them learning to float, that initial thing where they're floating. If you get in trouble, go on your back. And they had that down. So hold on to that image. Kierkegaard, when he talks about faith, the great Christian philosopher, when he talks about it, he said, God is like a vast ocean. And vast means just that, vast. He's huge. He's unfathomable. It's much more than you could ever understand. But when you learn to trust in the buoyancy of the water of God, you float. So to understand the depths way beyond you, to understand all the currents and all the things way beyond you. But what is enough is God. And when you trust in the buoyancy of him, this is how you float. So I will close with this, some questions for you to think about. Learn to rely and rest on him. Begin to think of faith moving from your head. That's the irony. Begin to think of faith, but you'll get it. This is where language is limiting, right? Begin to move in the way of faith to your heart and not keep it up here. And a lot of times this is about letting go of something. Maybe it's letting go of this up here. Maybe it's letting go of performing faith rightly. It's not about you performing faith rightly. It's about you relying and resting in the buoyancy of God. And he causes you to float. How are you addressing worry, fear, and the unknown? How are you addressing the fact that you need more power? Let's go back to our blind beggar. There's plenty of worry and fear, unknown in his life. He's certainly needing power and strength. So what is it? Is he going to get all of that from here? So when you need God or you want faith, where are you mustering it from here? You have to have the right amount. You got to make sure you believe the right things. I don't know about that, gosh. So I guess I'm stuck. It has to be all or nothing. Then it stays here. But if you go, listen, he's vast and I can just lean in. All right, that's enough. There's plenty here, but there's enough. Next week, I'm going to talk about sight and how faith allows us to see, or how we can stay blind with actually being able to see. So let's pray. Father, honestly, I wonder if I'm radically confusing. But I will trust in you and rely upon you that your Spirit is the voice and the messenger and the guide to these wonderful and dear, open-hearted, faith-looking, mercy in touch with people. So, Spirit, I pray for your voice. You, in the New Testament, it is said of you that you guide us. You speak the voice of God to us. So I pray for my friends. I pray that they wouldn't worry that doubt and unbelief is their enemy. In fact, I believe a little doubt is the best thing. If it creates reliance and holding on to you tighter, I'd say it's a good thing. So I pray as a church and as a people that we would move in the way of Jesus. And like the blind man, we would follow after you and have faith that is trusting, believing into, but not burdened by the right amount, and knowing enough. Let's trust in you. I pray that in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks for coming, everybody. Peace.